guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. I'm your host, Colin Price, and I know it's been a really long time since I posted a video. COVID has unfortunately affected all of us, obviously across the world, and while a lot of people had a little more time the last few months to do certain things they wanted to do because they didn't have to work, I was one of the unlucky ones who had to work more than usual because of it, and therefore I just have not had the time to do anything with my YouTube channel. I'm hoping now that my wife and I have moved to Pensacola that things are going to get, and we're a little more settled in. Things are going to get easier. I'm going to have a little more time to be doing this because I really want to get back into doing these video reviews on a regular basis, and I have a whole slew of titles to review. I've got a list and a notebook that's like a page and a half long of movies that I want to review for you guys. So I'm going to start with a brand new movie today, and I've been kind of excited to see this one because I was kind of wary of it. I didn't know if it'd be good or not. The trailer looked like it could go either way. In fact, I'm going to pull up an exclusive clip on my laptop of this film. Just got this sent to me, and I'm just really excited to see it. So let's check this out real quick. Here we go.
Boy, I hope the restaurant's still open. I haven't eaten since I left Cucamonga. La da dee dee da da la da 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 abracadabra.
The Witches. The Witches stars Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer and is a readaptation of the book of the same name by Roald Dahl. Now, if you're as old as I am, there's a chance that you grew up and at least saw the original movie once. It came out in 1990 and starred Angelica Houston as the villain, and it was one of those movies, it was a couple of years before Hocus Pocus became the real big Halloween thing. For a couple of years, like 91, 92, on ABC and Fox, every Halloween they would show The Witches. And it was a very creepy movie. It came out around, let's just say the end of the era where you could get away with certain things in a film that was rated PG that you probably couldn't get away with in a film that was made today with that same rating. So when I saw the first trailer for this readaptation, I thought, okay, but this is PG. Like, how far are they going to push some of the darker elements of this story as much as the original movie did, and certainly as much as the book did? Well, I'm going to get into that. But first, I'll give you the plot. If you haven't seen the original movie, you don't know the book, you don't know the story, I'll give you a basic rundown. It's about this boy, and he is orphaned at a very young age, and he's sent to live with his grandmother, who's played by Octavia Spencer in this film. And she soon tells him all about witches, gives him the rules, kind of a la Gremlins. They look like this, they do these kinds of things, these are the signs. If you think someone might be a witch, this is how you can tell. The movie sets up the rules of the world and how it's going to portray the witches henceforth. It isn't too long before the boy actually encounters one of these creatures, and when he tells his grandmother about it, she decides, oh boy, we got to get out of here, and takes him to a hotel with her, a very swanky hotel, at least for 1968 Alabama, a very swanky hotel. And but by the time they get there, the boy soon realizes, wow, we came here to get away from one witch, and now there's this whole coven hanging out at this hotel. So, good on him. That was a great escape plan for him and his grandmother. Ugh. This coven is, of course, led by the Grand High Witch, here played by Anne Hathaway, and the boy soon discovers that she plans to poison all of the children in the world with this potion that she's going to put in chocolate and candy and spread all over the world. And he's caught, and he's turned into a mouse. Yay! So now he gets to spend the whole rest of the film as a mouse, trying to convince his grandmother what's going on and trying to stop the witches. Now, you can't review this film without making some comparisons to the original movie, because the original film is iconic in its own right. It's not a movie that I would ever say is like a 4-star classic, but as I said, if you grew up watching that movie, it has a special place in your heart. It is kind of like, to an extent, like Hocus Pocus or Nightmare Before Christmas, and when people were saying, oh, they're going to do another one of these, they're going to do the movie again, but with a different cast and a lot of people, including myself, and I'm usually okay with remakes and readaptations. I usually try to be cautiously optimistic. But with this one, even I was kind of like, why? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with this that's going to improve upon the original film? Once again, not saying it's a 4-star film by any stretch of the imagination, but with the iconic role that Angelica Houston played and pulled off in that film, You could cast anybody, and they're probably not going to top that. And I hate to say it, but I was kind of right. The one main difference that I noticed between Angelica Houston's portrayal, and I actually did watch the original film again last night because I knew I was going to check out the new one today and wanted to have them both fresh in my mind. One thing I noticed about Angelica Houston's portrayal is she did definitely go over the top. She was theatrical and she was really out there, really menacing, and really threw her whole into that part. But she still knew when to be nuanced and still knew when to go for creepy and subtle rather than outlandish. Anne Hathaway didn't get the memo. From the second that she's on screen, she is just this cartoon character. You can't even really feel threatened by her. One, because of the very obvious CG they use. Like, you know, the original, they had all these great prosthetics on the witches, and they did all these great tricks. The Jim Henson company did the effects in the original film, and here everything's just CG'd, and it just doesn't hit. CGI effects and makeup effects will never have the same impact as good prosthetic work. I've said it for years and I'm still maintaining that. This film is a prime example of how choosing to do movies with a lot of CG instead of just finding practical effects, practical ways on the set, in camera to do them, that'll never be as effective. Stephen King, I think, even once said about CG, he said, if anything can happen, why should we care when it does? I really felt that way during a lot of scenes in this movie. But Hathaway is so overblown. She's so over the top in everything she does. You can't take it seriously. It was really upsetting to me. The film relies so much on comedy and campiness. I'm not saying that the first one didn't, but this one goes it just lays so much into that when something is supposed to be scary or supposed to be threatening, you're still not totally convinced by it. You know, there's the great unmasking scene in the first movie that anyone who's seen it will remember for the rest of their lives. And it's so creepy and so effective. The mood is pitch perfect. It builds up. You get the reveal. You get the makeup effects. It's so wonderful. In this movie, it's just complete CG. Just their faces just kind of morph and they're all laughing. And, you know, like Hathaway's flying around a room and throwing a really terrible accent that I still have no idea exactly what kind of accent she was going for. It's so muddled that sometimes it sounds like it's German, sometimes it sounds like it's Irish, sometimes it sounds like, I don't know. I don't get it. But during that scene, what's even more distracting is you have Chris Rock narrating things as it happens. Like, way to take any horror out of this reveal when you have Chris Rock just going on and on describing what's going on. I mean, nothing against Chris Rock. He's a comedian. He's a comedian, and the voice he's doing, the way that he's narrating, is very silly. It's very goofy. You know, it's kind of reinforcing that you shouldn't take any of this seriously. Now that I've gone off on that entire tangent about that one scene and how disappointing it was, I want to get into a couple of things that I liked about the movie because it wasn't a complete throwaway. It wasn't a complete disaster by any means. Stanley Tucci looked like he was having a lot of fun as the hotel manager. I think the best scenes in the movie revolve around him trying to interact with the other characters. In the original, the guy was played by Rowan Atkinson, you know, Mr. Bean. But he was kind of a jerk, whereas Stanley Tucci in this movie is much more kind of just awkward. It's just fun watching him try to make heads or tails of all the madness going on in his hotel. Also, the ending. I do actually like the ending of this film better than I like the ending of the original movie. And by that, I don't mean the very ending, like the last twist in the story, so much as I mean the last 20 or 25 minutes. You know, how they do the final confrontation between the mice, the grandmother, and the witches, and how that all plays out, I think is much more interesting and much cleverer than what we got in the original film, though that one still will hold some place in my heart because I've seen it so many times as a kid. Also, the production design, the set decoration, the costumes is all top notch. A lot of money went into this movie. You can tell a lot of money and a lot of hard work went into this movie. It's just a shame that they couldn't capture a tone and stick with it. The film seems silly when it's supposed to be scary and seems weird when it's supposed to be funny. Nothing quite sticks to landing. I actually felt a lot about this movie, what a lot of people said about Birds of Prey, including myself, when that came out. That it was like a lot of things in the movie work, they just don't all work together. When you have the different characters interacting. Octavia Spencer, for example, she's pretty good in everything, but even her I found to be kind of annoying in this movie. She's just kind of the, oh, jumpin' jeepers character the whole film, and just has nowhere near the personality that the grandmother in the original had. Same with the boy. This is one of the worst child actors that I've seen in a while. He's just expressionless for the most part. I couldn't really feel an emotional connection to him. I couldn't be scared for him really, because throughout the whole movie he never really seems that scared. It's just I couldn't make the connection that I felt I was supposed to make with any character in the film. It felt like it was going through the motions of telling the story that had already been told, but without understanding why that story was so powerful to begin with. I'm gonna give The Witches 1.5 stars, and as bad as that might sound, I actually feel like I'm being kind of generous because there are a couple of brief aspects of the film that I like and I thought worked, but for the most part, I don't understand why someone is going to watch this movie and be like, oh, that was so much better than the first one. Oh, man. Thank God they corrected all these terrible problems that the original movie had. I don't think that too many people are going to feel that way. I think that kids will be a little more forgiving because, when you're a kid, let's face it, you don't care about CGI. You don't care about whether a performance is good or bad. You're just entranced by what you're watching. You're entertained by it. As we get older, we're all going to find things to nitpick, things we don't like, things, and that's just a harsh reality. But I really didn't care for this film, and I don't think I'll ever be watching it again, at least anytime soon. That was my review of The Witches. Stay tuned. As I've said before, I have a lot more reviews coming. I cannot wait to get back to doing this at least a couple of times a week. I really miss doing these videos, and I'm totally jazzed now that I'm going to get an opportunity to get right back into it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.